Okay, today I will be tasting Blackberry from Music City Tea out of Tennessee. I've actually been buying quite a bit of her teas to try out her varieties. This is a black tea. I believe it is Wuyi. It's a nice dark color. I've actually had these teas before. This was not given to me. I actually purchased this. This is actually I've actually purchased this more than once because I liked it so much that I ordered more of it. It's got a sweet, toasty aroma. Leaves are all intact. Little, if no, dust to it. I'll be brewing this with a gaiwan that I actually purchased from Path of Cha. It's very well made, very pretty. You can tell it was hand painted. This is a higher caffeine amount tea, so this would be drank in the morning usually or afternoon. I usually drink it at work. This tray is actually from Music City Tea as well. I use this all the time in my tastings and brewings. I just sit here and drink tea in the mornings. I brew all my tea with this one. I'm going to do 2 quick infusions of 5 to 10 seconds, and then I'm going to do a Western brew. And that's usually what I do with my tastings. I get a feel for it on the first 2 brews, and then I go into a Western brew to get the full effect. I always rinse to remove the impurities of the tea and to open it up. This Sancho cup is actually from Tizumi, which is another tea company I actually order a lot from. They have awesome Japanese green teas. Forgot to dump that in. If you're used to brewing in pots, it's a nice little change to switch to a gaiwan for every once in a while. It's actually really simple. I'll end up doing a video on how to use it. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A lot of times too, when I'm actually trying to get into a meditative state of mind, I will actually brew my tea by breaths. And I count deep breaths for my timing. So if it's 10 seconds, it's roughly, for me, it's about two breaths is about 10 to 15 seconds. So with this one, I would just take 2 deep breaths. Then I pour. Especially if you're doing longer brewing, longer time, you can actually get into quite a nice meditation while you're actually drinking your tea. It's pleasant, especially if you have some incense, light some incense, and you get another little aroma. It's actually very nice. Okay, so here's the color in the actual tea ocean or fairness pitcher. This is 2 quick Gong Fu brews. Color's a little lighter. It's very translucent. Good luminosity. I don't see any particle after straining. Not foggy. It's nice. Aroma. Slight smoky or roasted. Hint of berry. Yeah, this tea is great. It has a great mouthfeel. It's got a good sourness on the tongue. And the sourness just isn't on the tip. It seems to coat the tongue with like a berry sourness to it. Definitely, you can taste the roasting. It's very light though, very clean. It's not ashy. There's no ash in this at all. Fantastic. I'm going to save some from my camera person. She was afraid she was going to dump the tea while she was recording. I almost said fusing. I'm not at work. So I will save that for her. She loves the black teas, and this is one of her favorites as well as mine. So I order this in bulk. I originally had gotten a 4-ounce sample, and we blew through that. So that's her cup if she's showing you that. Looks like she's tilting it down to you. That's fantastic. Okay, now with the Gaiwan. Might as well go through a quick one and then do a more detailed explanation in another video. So Gaiwan, you're brewing just like a teapot. There's no strainer. Some teapots don't even have built-in strainers. But you're basically using the lid to control the water flow. So you can either use it with the I've seen it done with just the cup, or the cup with a saucer. If there is a saucer, I tend to like actually picking up the saucer because it keeps your hand more clear of the cup so you don't get burned as often, especially if you're new. Yeah, the fruit note actually comes out more so when the tea starts to cool a little bit on this one, I've noticed. Your first initial sips, especially if you savor the cup, tend to be more roasty and toasted. But the fruitier berry kind of notes actually come out after it cools like 10-20 degrees. So with Gaiwan, you want to make sure if you're brewing in this kind of style you have some kind of water board, because it does get wet. It gets very everywhere. So at least get a small one if it's just you, and something bigger if you're going to be doing more than one person, because it is a lot of wastewater. This one's actually nice because there is an actual tube that comes off of it, and it actually drains, and I have a bucket underneath the table, so I can go all day and not have to worry about emptying out a water tray. Okay, so now we're going to do a 3-minute Western style brew. I am brewing at 194 degrees Fahrenheit with this tea. And I tend to do that with most of my oolongs and my blacks. I try to keep, especially with tastings, I try to keep it at the same temperature. That way I get a feel for the tea. If you're brewing at different temperatures, especially with the same style of tea, you're going to get a consistency of what the tea offers. Now, if I dropped it down to 174 one time and brought it up and down, then obviously I wouldn't be getting the same parameters. So it's if you're scientific, it's like a control. So brew black teas unless it's recommended at a different temperature. Brew them at a higher temperature. I mean, once you get a feel for the tea, you can drop it, drop down the temp or raise it. I do that with green teas a lot. I typically don't go above 170, 175 with green teas because it can be very, very negative experience. But I will drop down to it like 110, 120 and let them slow brew with a lot of my teas just to see what will happen. And I kind of play in between that area. Okay, water's heated. Now with the Gaiwan, tea's in there, you just let it, you pour the water, you don't want to pour all the way to the top. You can either leave the lid off or on. Sometimes I leave it off, sometimes I leave it on. Just be mindful, if you leave the lid on, the lid will be extremely hot when you go to actually pick it up. And if you have a good Gaiwan, it's not a problem, but some of the cheaper ones, this part will get extremely hot. And you just got to be mindful of that. Sometimes I leave it off, even with my teapots, because I like to watch the leaves open. And it's just pleasant to watch. It's actually neat. Some of the larger teas, like the Taiguan Yin and oolongs that are ball, you'll get this little tea ball and it'll open up to these giant leaves. And it's actually really, really neat to watch. That's why you have to be careful also of how much tea you're actually putting in here. I don't typically measure my teas so much when I brew them. I just kind of go off of an intuition. But you can get I actually have one. You can get miniature gram scales to measure out the tea, especially if you're trying to compare tastes to between different teas. This gives you a way to have an exact measurement, exact temperature, exact brewing parameters, and see which teas are better. Some teas will not brew as many times as well, so I tend to keep track of that. Because if you're paying $20 for a tea that brews 2 times, as opposed to $20 for a tea that's going to brew like 8 to 15 times, I mean, it just makes sense to go for the one that brews more, as long as the flavor is there. And everybody's flavor is going to be different. Me, I don't particularly go for nuttier varietals of tea. I like roasted, I like earthy, I like forest notes. I don't mind a marine fermentation. I love Japanese brine. I love umami. I love the seaweed-like notes and the spinach vegetable notes. Yeah, really the only thing I really like is the overly nutty flavors. I like smoky. I like a lapsang. I actually just got a really smoky lapsang from Music City, and it was fantastic. Not everybody is going to like that. I gave it to a couple people at work, and they were not having it. You can laugh if you want to. You don't have to hide behind there. The boom is pointing towards me, and they'll probably hear you, but it's okay. They can hear you. I had bought it for a coworker who said he loved smoky varietals of black tea, and he loved it. So I'm happy that you liked it. And if you're watching this, you're welcome. Tea timer's almost up, and I will show you how to pick up the Gaiwan. And honestly, I think it's easier actually picking up from the saucer. So kind of pick it up from here. Make sure you have a gap in the lid, if you can see it. Then you put pressure down at the top and at the bottom. And then your fingers will be here holding the tray. And then all you do is tip it. And the pressure from the 2 sides keeps the cup together. This isn't going anywhere. It's actually very, very sturdy. It's actually sturdier than some of the lids. I mean, I can actually turn this upside down. It's actually really nice. Okay, so now we have a 3-minute Western style brew. And the reason I only do 2 quick Gong Fu style brews or quick brews at the beginning is because I don't want to dilute the tea too much before I actually do this brew. So it gives me a kind of gauge on how well it Gong Fu brews as well as Western brews. Now, I revisit these teas many times, so a lot of times I will just do a straight Gong Fu brew session. And some of these teas, I mean, you can brew like 20 times, especially the Pueris, which I will be getting into videos in a little bit about, which I actually like. they're some of them are very acquired taste. They're very, very earthy, high mineral, high forest notes. I call it like a. If you ever wake up in the morning in the fall and you smell like leaves kind of fermenting and drying, that's the kind of aroma and flavor it gives off, which is actually to me very pleasant. I'm not particularly a fan of fall because winter is coming, but I do enjoy the colors and the scenery and getting warm. Spring is more my thing. I like the bright greens. I like that the warmer weather is coming. So spring's more my thing. The color is definitely more intense on the Western style brew. It is still not cloudy, still no sediment and no impurity coming through. Some teas you'll notice a little bit of leaf. These leaves are actually fairly intact. It's very red, yeah. If you actually hit the light right, this is a actual very, very vibrant red. There's almost no brown tint to it. It's very clear. Would you like your tea?
Yes, please.
Okay. Be very careful because this is very full. See? You can hear how much she likes it. Now with tea, I usually like to let it sit on the palate for at least a couple seconds before swallowing. Sometimes when it's really hot, some people will tend to just reflex and swallow it really quick, and you don't pick up a lot of the nuance when you actually do that. The fruit flavor actually comes through very well with the Western style brew as well. Yes?
Is this a tea you would drink cold?
With these style of teas, you can ice them. Traditionally, they don't ice these, but you can cold brew almost any tea. The thing is, it's going to change the flavor parameters of it. It's going to, yeah, I mean, if you cold brew a tea, the aromas won't hit you as much. So, with iced teas, I tend to go to a cheaper type of tea because you're going to be watering it down. You're not going to get the aroma. You can do these iced, and they're very delicious iced, but at the price point, I tend to stick to hot brewing. Now, that's all to your budget or particular tastes. Now in the summer, a lot of times I will get a cheaper, especially green tea. Sometimes scented. I usually stay away from scented teas. I do enjoy some herbals and stuff sometimes, but she wants more. Yeah. All loose leaf teas you can do cold brew. When I do mine, I usually use a French press, and that seems to work really well, and it's good for straining it, and then I strain it off into another container. Cold brewing I usually do for 12 hours. You basically just I match, so whatever size receptacle that you have, so say it's 12 ounce and it's gram per ounce, so 12 ounces of tea, let it sit for 12 hours, and then I strain it. I don't tend to use a lot of sugar in my teas as well, especially with the higher end, because it muddles the taste. And I think it's almost insulting to the tea because people have been honing these flavors for some of them thousands of years, and to not honor them by tasting the straight liqueur is what it is. I mean, if you're gonna put you buy it, you're gonna put sugar in it. That's you. But just like with you, it takes a while for your palate to develop not putting sugar into the tea. So I definitely recommend start drinking it, even if you think you don't like it. Keep revisiting it, because your palate will change over time. I was a cook slash chef for over 20 years, and I had to train myself to be able to eat certain foods, especially stuff that I did not like when I was a child, just because if I didn't like something doesn't mean that the customers did not want it. So I had to be able to make it well. So even like seafood, when I was a kid, I loathed seafood. Now I like almost every type of seafood. Mushrooms, same thing. So keep revisiting it, and who knows, you might adapt to a taste of it, just like with you and green teas. Green teas aren't your thing, but if you continue to drink them, your palate will develop. Some people say they drink the tea and they go, this just tastes like tea, because they don't have develop the palate yet. Yes, let's brew again. And once you start to develop a palate, and I hear that it's similar with Scotch and bourbon drinkers as well. When people first start tasting those, all they taste is the alcohol. And eventually your palate opens up and you start to taste little flavors. You start to smell different aromas. You want to do a Western. Okay, second Western style. And I 100% can verify that that's actually a thing, because I used to taste scotches, and at first I'm like, okay, this one just tastes slightly smokier than that one or this one. But being from drinking teas from a young age, I started drinking tea from, I think it was like 11 or 12 when I started out with loose leaf from my neighbor. He used to give me tea, and then I went over to tea bags, which I absolutely do not recommend any type of tea bag unless it's unbleached cotton. It just constricts the tea from opening up. Yeah, so let's figure 30 years I've been drinking and sampling teas, and I went from, I've had some from India. I tend to stick to China, Japan, some Vietnamese. I had a chance to try a couple Tibetans, and those were actually pretty decent. They were interesting. I've never had the butter tea, which is actually something I've actually wanted to try. But great tea, Jenny. This stuff is black gold. It's probably this and the monkey picked black tea are great. I actually have a couple more, and the Lopsang, the smoky, was actually really good too. I actually enjoyed it. But like I said, anybody new into tea, do not start out with, unless you like smoked meat flavors or smokiness to your food. Lopsang is not one you want to start out at. Don't tend to start off with green teas too, because green teas can be very finicky to brew, and they take certain parameters, certain time frames, and can be very easily made badly. All of her black teas are really good. Music City Tea black teas, all of these are very forgiving, and her oolongs as well are very forgiving. All of them I've tried so far. I actually have 2 more coming to try that are oolong varietal, and 1 more black. And I will be reviewing all those, and I'll let you know how the brewability of those are as well. But every single black or oolong I have bought from Music City Tea has actually been very, very forgiving on the brewing. They're very excellent teas. Okay, almost tea time. So, and again, we'll go through the Gaiwan. I usually put a hand underneath just to kind of give me a base. It does help too if you start off by moving the amount Some Gaiwans are going to actually take a little bit more space, whereas this one I can usually do a fine little crack. What happens is the air comes through the back and gives you, so it doesn't suction, and then funnels it out the front. And I also like doing it with the saucer, because if anything runs off, it catches it on the saucer instead of on the table in your hand. Now this is probably going to be a lighter one because we've done quite a few brews, but we'll see. No, it's actually still got some color to it. I think I've Western brewed this 4 times at 3 minutes at 195 and still was getting flavor out of it. At that point, usually the caffeine is basically gone, so you're basically just drinking it for flavor and getting the rest of the nutrients and color and flavor out of it. The aroma is still, this is a very light aroma tea. I noticed that with a lot of the darker roasted blacks and our black or red teas, that the aromas are missing as opposed to like a lighter green or the green teas. Some of those have a very strong floral or nutty note to them. This one is about a medium on the aroma. Yeah, that'll be the last brew because that is getting light. It almost had a raspberry-ish note to it. I did get a bunch of Music City herbal teas. We've had a chance to try those. She's dancing over there because she likes those. It's okay, you can laugh. She likes those. I actually liked quite a few of them. The fruit baskets was delicious. Just the raspberry note and that was phenomenal. Very good. So Music City Tea, Black Fairy, one of my favorite all-time black teas. Highly recommended. I believe this is one of her family's teas that she actually produce over back in China, and I tend to like promoting family-owned businesses instead of buying from just big corporate entities, just to keep the old school practices alive. And you can definitely tell that this is made old school. I mean, you can get the color of that in there. It's actually gorgeous. Natural roasting and everything, pan frying. It's just really good. All right, that's it for the tasting. Rose, did you want to add anything?
No, thank you.
Any questions, or you think anybody would want to know? I'm also going to be doing cooking videos. I'm going to do most likely art videos. I'm going to be creating more music for the channel. I'm going to be doing tutorials of cooking from the ground up, basically from how to use knives, what knives to use for what pans to use. You might get into some of the baking, I would imagine, because you were a baker. Baking was never, I could do it, but it was never my passion. But like sauteing sandwiches, soups, sauces, everything like that I know that I make up on the spot. And my old recipes, I plan on doing a lot of that. Obviously tea reviews, teaware reviews, which I kind of do while I'm brewing, honestly. So, but I probably will end up doing like showcases, especially if I get something new that I really like. What's that?
Your blue cup. Teacup.
My blue teacup. Which blue teacup?
The old fishies.
Oh, you're talking about the green one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just got that set. That'll be coming. Rose likes the blue. I might as well grab a couple now that she brought it up and show you what she's talking about. These are actually super cute.
Oh.
They actually have 3-dimensional fish in it. So I do not stack these because I'm paranoid I am going to chip the fish off. But this is gorgeous. This is a great set, Jenny. Excellent. Okay. Any questions or comments? Feel free to leave them in the comment section. Subscribe if you feel like it. I'll be doing all sorts of stuff. The more subscribers I get, obviously, the more I'll be doing it. And I need to think 50 to go live, and I would actually like to go live so people can actually ask me questions about either cooking or tea or artwork within reason, and if I have the knowledge. I don't claim to be a tea expert. I just have drank a lot of tea and tried a lot of teaware. I mean, I've drank at least 300 different types of tea. And if you count just types of tea from different vendors, it's probably over 1,000. I've drank tea a lot. And I've cooked a lot of food. And I came from fine dining, but I also did diner style food too, so I have a very broad range. And I dabble in Japanese and Chinese and Thai and some Vietnamese. I use shrimp paste. I use MSG. I cook with seaweed. I use it's not kombu, but it's the fish flake, bonito. I use bonito. I make my own ramen stocks. I actually make my own ramen noodles. So, yeah, there'll be a lot to come. If you'd like to see something and I can get to it, just leave it in the comments. Like I said, like, subscribe. That actually helps out, and that'll get me going. As soon as I can monetize, then I can prioritize more of doing this and buying other things to test. And thank you for watching.